Hey, what's up? This is Sane doing an FPS tutorial, and I'm gonna start making FPSs again because they finally fixed the issue for PS4 uploads. Unfortunately, I cannot be there for the live streams because I'm busy nowadays. So basically what we're going to do here is we're going to just grab one of my FPS stuff that I have. FPS startup code. This is the right one. Not the right angle. There it is. No. There we go. Copyright my video. I tried finding it on YouTube, but it's nowhere to be found, so... So usually with FPSs you would want to start with a invisible sphere. And if you guys want to do checkpoints for FPSs, the best thing to do is portals. You could also tie the portals to buttons and stuff. I wouldn't recommend it because if you're doing it on PS4 it can get a little glitchy. And I usually just do linear and then 85 restitution, bounce, no bounce, no buoyancy depending if you want to swim or whatnot, no collision sound, friction the same unless you want to do controlled friction. Mass, I usually set this to 100 kilograms. So it's like an easier number to for math and stuff. I'm gonna say physics on command. And X, Y, and Z coordinates. To this, I guess, yeah. I won't be able to move. And obviously, this is a force, applied force, physics force. And we're going to do applied physics force to object instances, which is the invisible sphere. Everything should colorate itself, if I'm saying that correctly. Custom object. Skill game. That's how it is. Then we don't want to show visualization. There we go. And then as soon as we start our game we should be able to move actually. This is really fast though. There's something that locks our Y-axis. 90 up and 90 down. Certain models in the environment, you notice that they disappear if you're not looking straight at them. That's because Trials was made for 2D models and effects, right? It wasn't really built for 3D, and hopefully in a new Trials game they actually do that. If you watched the previous tutorial, I actually did double jump, which I actually used the following OPE invisible object calculated underneath the rider's physical form, and all it does is animated on set value events. So it pretty much just point A to point B, point A to point B, and it was just values between on leave and on hit to the floor, whatever floor you're using. That's what I use the jump button. That makes a realistic jump. You could use force and force upwards and downwards to create the gravity and to create a jump like that as well. That's how most developers do it. But I do it that way because I think it's better. You won't see any type of clipping because you're using a custom object, right? So this is a that's how you make a first-person game. But the point of this video is to make a Footsteps. And how I make Footsteps is I say impulse. And we're probably going to make the impulse work at every second, I think. We're gonna say toggle. We're gonna pick out our sound source, which is going to be think one of these. We're gonna go up to one that says Footsteps. We're gonna say static, because static plays everywhere, not just in one distinct area. We're gonna put it to max volume because it's a very light sound. You can barely hear it in the headphones. Okay, so if you can barely hear it in the headphones, you're gonna like barely hear it in actual speakers. Just think about that, unless you have high performance speakers or something. I have high performance speakers and I still can't hear it. So it's gonna so it should be setting the coordinates like footstep, 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 footstep. Okay. Now, calculating this in my mind, I say the footsteps are not in sync. So let's do it again. Footstep, 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 footstep. Okay, so you're hearing footstep, 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 meaning that's the guy walking. You can increase the speed and decrease the speed on different values. Okay? Right? So you could create like a set for running and a set for walking and even sets for underwater with different sound sources, and it works the same way. We're just making it basic this video, and pretty much what it's gonna do is we're going to use a generic filter. Generic filter is going to use a game variable data source, and we're going to calculate the game character's speed. We're going to say greater than 50. Comparison value. So greater than 50 will send a value to on true and on false. Okay, on true, on false. So it's kind of like setting like different like switch values to on and off using the true and false, kind of like breaking the game. If you think about it that sort of way. We're going to constantly pump an interval because it's going to be an on-active trigger at all times. And it needs a constant interval or it's not going to work. Okay, so we're going to say So we're gonna pretty much say, tie that to a variable data source. We're gonna say 1 is the footstep sounds, right? Now I just screwed up the whole thing here. And we're gonna just pretty much play around with different values here. So off when you don't move, so 0 and set to 1 when you move. Share the impulses with an impulse here. And then I'll turn up my game volume here so I can actually hear. Okay, we're gonna adjust the turn off my end because I'm hearing myself and it's annoying. So you want to put this far away, like as far away from the skill game as possible, because this is gonna put it to non-statistic. And you can customize the 360 or the range of sound distribution between the rider. Maybe in the next Trials game you could do that. But basically what it's going to do, and it's going to recognize that it's non-static and then static. So we're actually going to see if this actually works. We're going to actually turn off the music that I'm playing and playtest it. Now you see here, I have a slight delay. I have a slight delay on my thing. Gotta turn off my speakers again because I'm hearing myself again. It gets annoying. And pretty much what happens is when you stop, right, the sound stops, but when you begin again, the start begins. It's not completely accurate, but you get what I mean. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, Periodic Bog has a better sound system, but for some reason on PlayStation 4, the physics system is a bit different, and I couldn't do what Periodic Bog did. Maybe because I was on a certain surface that I couldn't do it. I'm not sure. All I know is this is an alternate way to do sound sources, and it's still pretty accurate. You can even make like special collisions based on different speed values. So when you're like walking against the surface, you won't make a sound walking. It will stop. That's how I made it, and you could always use the this functionality pretty much. So pretty much here, you just use a greater value, and if it's a greater value than a certain number, then that will be your walking value, right? And since it's doing the statistic value of static and non-static, static means it plays everywhere in the world. Non-static means it plays in a specific area. So that's why you got to put it all the way away from your world, right? And you could also create a special technique using teleporters. You could actually make your your sound source, physics and non-physics. But then it won't work because if you go out of the physics bubble, then your sound is gone. You could try turning the sound on and off, but it's a little glitchy. It doesn't work with interval values. But just play around with it, and this is how you make footstep sounds in Trials Fusion, the easiest way. So ignore all of that in the background. That's how you make an FPS. Okay, a startup FPS. Okay, and I used Permitic Bog startup FPS with a mixture of my stuff. Okay, and this is all you need here to make the different types of sound sources and stuff. So if you want to make a realistic footstepping walking game, then you could say, okay, when you're walking towards something, you will make footstep sounds. And the same thing with animations. If you want your animation, your left foot and your right foot to keep going, or physics, because it's in the physics bubble, you can actually use physics joint to create physical animations that are not animations, they're just physical. You could do that too. All right. You could do that completely if you wanted to put the rider there, which is really, really difficult to apply the joints with the rider's feet because they're stretchable rubber and stuff like that. Like, you could pretty much follow Swamp Ball's tutorial and then use this to calculate the animation, you know, stuff, and then you could actually make it stop or make it walk, and make it more fluent. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying the legend. I'm going to be making more FPSs, or making more possibly FPSs. I'm not sure. In this coming past few months, because I want to get a few of them done. And then I think I'm out of ideas. There's nothing else really to do. I was thinking of making like Resident Evil or something like that, but like, yeah, this is what I like doing in Trials, and yeah, I started doing it, and I started doing it because I wanted to remake my favorite video game worlds, and I made all of my favorite video game worlds within Trials. If it wasn't for Trials, I wouldn't be able to do it. All the editors are complete trash. Sorry, Far Cry 5. Trash. Uh, in certain aspects it's better, but certain aspects it's shit. And Trials has the best, you could say, programmable non-coding scripts that almost feel like coding, you could say. And that's why it's incredible. So yeah, so it feels like you're actually working on a gaming engine, professional gaming engine, which is kind of open source. This is how most, uh, you know, not open source professional engines work, right? And like, but way more professional, obviously. And it's nice that Red Links has shared it with us. So yeah, thank them and thank me and Saint Legend, and I see you guys on maybe a next tutorial. Not sure. Alright, bye.